Good news for my fellow viewers. I've recently acquired a PS2 capture device, which means no longer having to deal with a finicky emulator like in my GT3 review. From here on out, you can expect some proper PS2 reviews, and at a much more frequent pace. Here's hoping to greater and better reviews from your favorite raccoon. So, who else here is stoked for Gran Turismo 7? After the fairly disappointing affair that was Gran Turismo Sport, we've all been waiting for a return to form. Even 4 years of updates hasn't fully fixed the underlying issues with that game. The watered-down career in favor of online play, the car list that's still a little lacking, and the utter absence of those classic tracks from GT's glory days. Well, GT7 looks to fix many of those issues, and I cannot wait for it to drop. But in the meantime, let's boot up what many consider to be the magnum opus of the entire Gran Turismo series. A game that might never be topped in terms of greatness. The majesty of Gran Turismo 4. The Gran Turismo series has always been a real system pusher in terms of content. The first game was something totally new for its time. The second still shocks me with the sheer amount of content on offer, and I'll still concur that it's one of the best games ever made. And 3 showed us the graphical prowess of the PS2. Unfortunately, 3 only having about a year and a half of development lacked content in areas. Only about 15 of the 30 tracks on the first 2 games returned, and merely another 4 were new. Add on top of that a car selection with more holes than Swiss cheese. Seriously, why is there only one BMW and where are all the classic cars too? Don't get me wrong, GT3 is a fantastic game worth playing even now, but it's certainly not deserving of the tens it got from professional reviewers. Oh, how those graphics spoiled us rotten. Gran Turismo 4 had the easy task of fixing those issues, but it would be a while before it would arrive properly. This would be the beginning of Gran Turismo's habit of games taking a long time to make. I am aware that Gran Turismo 1 took 5 years to develop, but if you look at the series prior to 4, sequels didn't take that long to come out compared to, now where they take fucking forever. And honestly, that's a good choice. A delayed game will soon be good, but a rushed game will forever be bad. In 2003, Asia and Europe would get a taste of would get a taste of things to come with Gran Turismo 4 Prologue. This is the first in the lineup of GT Prologues, which are basically expanded tech demos. Gran Turismo 5 would get a prologue as well, and GT Sport to some is basically a GT7 prologue, although that's pretty inaccurate in my eyes. If you hate those damned license tests, well suck it up, princess, because GT4 Prologue's main course is the license test. It contains 50 cars and around 6 tracks, all of which are new to the series such as Tsukuba and Fuji. Tracks that quite frankly should have been in GT3, but time and licensing issues are probably at play there. Beating the license test will unlock additional cars and such, but because of the nature of this game and the fact that the land of cheeseburgers and AR-15s didn't get this game, you can pretty much skip this one unless you want to emulate it. I didn't play this one, so I'm using borrowed footage courtesy of Racing Game Archive, so a rating won't be given to this interesting curiosity of the GT series. Finally, in 2005, the world would be graced with the second coming of Jesus Christ, Gran Turismo 4. In many ways, this would mark a new, more down-to-earth approach in the GT series. The menu, HUD, and general feel are different from the previous 3 entries. Thankfully, when it comes to content, Gran Turismo 4 does not skip a beat. Upon starting arcade mode, you'll have more cars at your disposal than GT3 had in total. Really makes you think about how unfinished GT3's car selection was. There are about 750 cars in this game in total, which is still an achievement even now. Granted, around half of those cars are Nissan Skylines, Mazda Miatas, and Honda Civics, but there's so much variety, and used car dealers return too, although they are non-manufacturer specific this time. You'll have some classic muscle cars mixed in with the Skylines and Supras. When it comes to track selection, GT4 features a perfect balance of real-life and fictional tracks. Alongside the Nürburgring, Tsukuba, and Suzuka Speedway, High Speed Ring and Autumn Ring return with some notable enhancements. My favorite new tracks would include El Capitan, still one of the best tracks in GT history, shame that this is its only appearance. By extension, it also has a rally layout that I'm also really fond of too. Again, it didn't return in any future sequels. New York, which kinda gives off a GTA 4 vibe in my opinion, Costa di Amalfi, a beautiful Mediterranean delight, and Hong Kong, another track unique to GT4. The real-life tracks are a nice treat as well, and are utilized more throughout the game. Overall, there is no denying that GT4 is better than 3 based solely on the amount of content that it offers. I get GT3 was barely off from being a launch title, but it didn't have to be that way, and doing that severely harmed the game in the long run. Gran Turismo 4 features months of content that you will never get bored of. But how about that simulation mode, huh? Well, it's more of the same from the previous 3 games, but enhanced even further, and boy does it have so much to do. Unfortunately, the licenses are still mandatory, and because Polyphony Digital are trolls, they decided to double the amount of tests just to piss you off even more. That's the one downside to this game. It wants you to spend more time learning the ropes, with 16 tests per license, but persevere through the adversity and this game will win you over. Even though I'm one of those weirdos who will defend the license tests as a good way of balancing progression, 16 tests per license is about 10 too many. Thankfully, if you have beaten all of the noticeably easier tests in GT3 and raised 100,000 credits, you can start GT4 with the first few licenses already in hand and 100,000 credits to boot. Having a GT3 save file on hand will make this game a much easier experience. After that, it's time to buy a used car, and there is so much to choose from. It's not just a case of buying the AE86 or Mazda Miata, you have dozens of options upon starting the game, and it is a joyride from there on out, winning dozens of events and building your dream collection of wheels. The driving physics are the most realistic they've ever been so far, making the 750 car roster all the more enthralling. GT4 has the most events out of any game in the series, ranging from battles with tiny K cars, multi-race events and GT-class monsters, some tough-as-hell rally events, and even one-make races, which are more prevalent than ever and actually reward prizes for beating them. That was kind of annoying in GT2. Having barely anything in reward for those one-make races just makes them feel like filler. Every race in GT4 features some sort of prize car. Quick tip for new players, just grind out that easy Amalfi rally race on repeat because it grants you a Toyota rally car that you can sell for $250,000 each time. It's a great way of breaking this game. In a good way, that is. Endurance races have also been greatly improved this time. You can just let the AI do the work for you while you sleep. It also just makes the events much less of a hassle since you won't have to get numb butt cheeks or playing the game for 4 hours. And on top of that, you can speed up the race to cut down on time. Gran Turismo 4 is a game so good it will literally play itself. Graphically speaking, GT4 is on a whole new level. My footage doesn't really speak for it, and in standard definition on modern TVs, it will definitely look fuzzy. But here's some upscaled footage of it running in 4K 60 FPS. At this level, it could easily pass for an early PS3 game. All the cars and tracks look great, and some of these assets would be reused in Gran Turismo 5 and 6 to mixed results, and something that would usher in the dark ages of Gran Turismo. But it speaks volumes as to how well made the modeling is in this game. If I were you, I would use an HDMI upscaler or simply play it in HD on an emulator if possible, because it doesn't look very great in standard definition on a flat screen TV. I apologize if the footage I've been using in this review looks a bit blurry. That's just how it looks on my TV, and more than likely yours for that matter. The soundtrack is one of the best in the series, with so many artists and genres featured, with hard-rocking tunes from the likes of Van Halen and Judas Priest, to some kicking drum and bass, and even the meme-worthy Oh Yeah by Yellow. A pretty obvious change of pace that will be heard whenever you fail a license test. Yeah, very classy Polyphony. The original score goes for something a bit more low-key to fit the new aesthetic, mainly remixes of tunes from the first couple of games. Daiki Kasho, who worked on the instrumental tracks from the third game and F-Zero GX, seriously, I fucking love this guy, returns with some more alt-rock tinted tracks, and they are just a treat to listen to. Unfortunately, the sounds of the vehicles is where the audio design falls short. The Gran Turismo series up until Sport changed things up was world-renowned for having vacuum cleaner sounding vehicles, and that's something that became very prevalent in this game, but only amplified in the next two titles. I mean, just listen to this. Yeah, leaves a lot to be desired. Granted, this is a small issue, but it does take away from the real driving simulator slogan somewhat when you could easily mistake a Mazda Miata with a Dyson vacuum cleaner. But aside from that and a lack of Lambos and Ferraris, everything in this game is amazing. Gran Turismo 4 is a magnum opus of the racing genre. I've said before that GT2 is the best sim racer ever made, but I'm hesitantly going to put aside my nostalgic bias and say that Gran Turismo 4 is not only the best game in the Gran Turismo series, but arguably the best game of its entire genre. For all the graphical and gameplay enhancements of the future titles, they just lacked that feel of the previous games. Gran Turismo 4 has one of the largest car rosters of any game even now, an almost perfect track selection, and months, if not years, of gameplay on hand. What's not to love? The fact this masterpiece is constantly absent from best games of all time lists is a crime against humanity. Anyone with a PS2 or even a slight interest in racing games needs to play this. Gran Turismo 4 is yet another 10 out of 10 must play, a benchmark of the sim racing genre. Sadly, Gran Turismo just wouldn't be as good from here on out. 5 and 6 were good games, but the former featured a controversial ranking system that garnered a mixed reception, a somewhat cut-down career mode, and on top of that, recycled over half of its cars from GT4 with no improvements or interior views, making Forza seem like a much better investment. Yeah, let's just say having PS2 models in a 2010 game did a lot of damage to Gran Turismo's reputation. GT6 would launch almost concurrent with the debut of the PS4, but was a PS3 exclusive, still containing the PS2 carryovers from 5, making this title the worst selling in the series. And Sport, for all of its graphical prowess and online goodness, was a slap in the face to longtime fans of the series, and only as of recently has become something I can wholeheartedly recommend. But GT7 is just around the corner, and the GT fandom is beyond hyped for a grand return to form. Let's be real, Gran Turismo 7 will not be on the same level as 2 and 4, but from the looks of things, it's shaping up to be a comeback of the GT we once knew and loved. So here's hoping that GT7 will be another stellar game in the catalog of the real driving simulator. Well, I've covered about half of the series now, from brief mentions of the prologues and concepts, from my first Gran Turismo review I made while in poverty, and it really shows from the sound quality, featuring over 100 cars, a dozen tracks, and a deep career mode that made you really feel like a professional race car driver, to the heights of 2, the semi-disappointment of 3, and now, the magnum opus. I am so worn out now, and it'll be a while before I continue my Gran Turismo ventures, but trust me, I'll get there when the time comes. As for now, oh god, I need some fucking sleep.